Welcome. I'm Brad Sugars, Chairman and Founder of Action International, and today we're going to be discussing a topic all about creating wealth. So welcome to my MindRICH program. We're going to be taking about 15-20 minutes to understand what it is to create wealth through either your own business, through growing your asset base, through your job, through all the different areas. Let's get straight into it. First thing I want to take a look at, there's 3 stages to growing wealth. Number 1 stage, and if I really simplify it down, these are the only 3 you need to concern yourself with. And probably a very important factor is to do these in order. You know, I watch a lot of people and they do these out of order and they wonder why it becomes tough for them later in life. You know, the people that ended up asset rich and cash poor, they might have a very wealthy home, but their land taxes kill them off so they can't even stay in the valuable home. Step 1 in wealth creation is about income rich. It's about creating a vast income. Now we're going to take a look in a little more detail about how to do that and what you should be doing. But it's about that income richness, about a vast income that generally has to supersede the number of hours you can work. So we'll talk about how we can do that in a moment. Stage 2, if we take a look, it's about asset rich. Now getting asset rich, folks, is about putting physical assets behind the income. Now a lot of people try and do this the other way around. They try and get their assets built up before they've learned how to build a solid income base. And to me that doesn't make a lot of sense. You've got to get that income first, then the assets, physical assets. Again, we'll look in more detail about how to do that in just a moment. Third stage is what I call paper rich. This is where we start trading paper assets, things like stocks, shares, licenses, futures, warrants, all the different areas that we can trade paper in to become future wealth. Initial public offerings. These are areas of the paper wealth. Ultimately, we want to do that third in our stage. And obviously, you've seen a lot of people who've tried to do that second, like the internet bubble. It was a classic example of people who didn't do income rich, didn't do asset rich. When they became paper rich, they had no idea what they were doing, and what happened? They lost it all. So we've really got to look at it from that perspective. So let's take an examination then of my wealth house. Here's what we're going to look at. Stay with me for just a second looking at the wealth house. At the top here, the 2 ladders lead us to where we're getting that wealth. Now there's 2 sides to building our wealth house. And those 2 sides of building our wealth house are both just as important as each other. So what are the 2 sides? Number 1, cash flow. Number 2, capital. So there's 2 ladders you've got to learn to climb in your life. Number 1 ladder is cash flow, and number 2 ladder, just as important if not more, is the capital ladder. So the cash flow ladder is what we're going to look at first in a little bit of detail. That cash flow ladder, as we climb it, what you've got to remember is you start here at the bottom. Now down at the bottom, it's active income. That means you're trading time for money. Active income. Now ultimately, what's our goal? Move up to the top of the ladder. The top of that ladder, passive income. That's where we're aiming to move you, and what I want to teach you a little bit about today. Now, how do you get there? There's a whole huge ladder involved in moving up this thing. We start out in life as a student. We then become an apprentice. And I'll go through these in a little bit more detail. Let me put them up on the screen for you, though. All the different levels that you'll be working through as you grow up this cash flow ladder. Now, ultimately, let's just take a look here, folks. We start here at student. Student, you're not getting paid to learn. In fact, you're paying to learn what you need to learn. You then become an apprentice. What happens? Now you're being paid while you learn. Now, do you get much money as an apprentice? No, you don't. You get paid a very low rate because you're learning. You don't have much knowledge to add much value, so therefore you don't get a lot of money. Pretty simple. We then move up to the next stage, the employee. Again, a base level employee. How much money do you make? Not much money. How come? Because you are getting paid based on your experience, based on what you're worth to the marketplace. So your main job as an employee is not to earn, it's to learn. You've got to keep that in mind. Too many college graduates go out there looking for the best paycheck. You should be looking for the best mentor, the best person to teach you how you can 10 years later become rich. Don't try and become rich the first year out of college. Try and become rich 10 years out of college. Aim to learn as much as you can, not earn as much as you can. Now ultimately, if you're a good employee, you'll be rewarded and you'll be made into a manager. Now what happens is, instead of doing the work yourself, you're now managing several other people doing the work. An entirely different skill set that you've got to pick up. how not to just do the work yourself, how to get other people doing the work for you at a great rate. Now ultimately, if you're a good manager, you get rewarded. You move up the cash flow ladder, you become a leader of people. You'll have several managers working underneath you. You'll be the one leading them, developing the vision, helping them grow, leading, setting the goals, setting the targets, inspiring them, keeping them motivated to make sure they do it. Now, here's what happens. Eventually you get to the point, and probably one of the reasons you're watching me here today is because you've got to that point where there's this entrepreneurial flair inside you. There's this bug, there's this, I gotta go out and do it on my own type thing. And ultimately, you start somewhere with this. Now, generally, most people start with a part-time business, or they go into multi-level marketing. They will go and do a whole bunch of different things. Either one of those is a brilliant way to train you in how you can grow and move forward in this ladder of cash flow. A multi-level marketing business, selling product, doing these things, all the things you will learn. Remember, the cash flow ladder is a learning ladder. You've got to learn at one level so you can progress to the next. If you don't learn at that level, you will never progress up the ladder. Therefore, your cash flow will never improve. You will never move from that active income to that passive income. Keep climbing the ladder with me. Next, we go to self-employed. This is generally the step that people who are doctors, accountants, professionals, plumbers, contractors, these are the people who will step out on their own into a self-employed situation where, in a lot of cases, they live the seesaw life. They got to chase the work, do the work, chase the work, do the work. They're selling and doing, and there's this amazing time where they're just having to keep balance in it. Unfortunately, most people who get to that level end up with a very simple statement. You know what? I'm just going to go back and get a job. Well, I don't think that's the right thing. Stepping out into self-employed is a great move. You've stepped up the active-passive cash flow ladder. You've taken the step. Now you've got to learn all the things at that level. See, to be self-employed, you have to know sales, you have to know marketing, you have to know finance, you have to know legals, you have to know recruitment, you have to know all these different areas of business, as well as the business of your business. That's the challenge. See, your first business is going to be your toughest one, not because it's your first business, because you've got to learn all these things along the way. It's the learning that kills most businesses. It's not the lack of cash flow, the lack of sales. It's that they don't have time to learn it all. Hopefully today we're going to teach you a little bit of it so you get over those humps.